Google has released a major update.
They're not penalizing AI, they're penalizing poor quality.
How do we use AI in our day and age for SEO?
It helps us to accelerate everything that we do. There's really no area where I think AI has come that can totally replace a human. So ChatGPT is probably the quickest and easiest way to go to start, but
Google is in the business of making money. If it serves good results to queries to their users, the users keep on using Google and don't go to any competitor.
As a human, I can't come up with 150 different ways to say the same thing. And that's where we can leverage AI. It does still need editing. I still like to use AI for generating content, but I do think it comes out with a better quality content than if I were just going to go in and write it myself. You can ask ChatGPT to crawl your website, but I've found it doesn't do the best job.
Duplicate content will be heavily penalized.
It's because you have so...
Welcome to SEO Gurus. In today's episode, we welcome Lauren Busby. Lauren is the co-founder of TreebleTree, a boutique SEO and web design agency where she leads the SEO/web teams in building websites for SEO success. She has worked in the SEO field since 2009, driving organic growth for a range of medium-sized to enterprise-level brands. Lauren specializes in AI in SEO, keyword strategy, technical SEO, and large-scale franchise/enterprise SEO. This episode is brought to you by GHA Marketing, and we hope you'll enjoy our conversation with Lauren. So, Lauren, tell me, how do we, at the moment we're recording, it's June 2024, but I guess it will still be relevant in July, August, September, and hopefully for a long time. How do we use AI in our day and age for SEO?
Great question. Very broad question. But I think one of the ways I view using AI for SEO is that it helps us to accelerate kind of everything that we do. And there's really no area where I think AI has come that can totally replace a human or replace a workflow that we did before. But I try to integrate it in every step of my SEO workflow to accelerate and make me more efficient. So, for example, on the keyword research side, where we used to pull down massive data sets of like thousands and thousands of keywords and manually go through those, we can use AI's natural language processing to help us to cull down that data set more efficiently and more quickly.
So give me an example of that. Let's focus on the keyword research to begin with, right? Let's say I want to, have a blog around pizzas and pizza recipes, and I want to write something about pizza dough recipe. The typical way that you would do keyword research, right, is just to go in Google Keyword Planner and any of the tool of your preference, look for pizza recipes, pizza dough recipes, see what kind of queries are searched by the users, see what's a competitive keyword, what's less competitive keyword, and maybe you can position yourself. So you have all those data that, as you just mentioned, you need to go through volumes, cost per click, everything that would allow you to understand how good a keyword is and how to position yourself on your industry. Let's bring AI into this. What's the difference then? Like Google or whatever tool gives me 1,000 keywords linked to pizza recipes. What does AI do that makes me gain time and be more efficient?
And I think you hit the nail on the head that where you're getting the keyword data from, that's still the same. Whether you're using Keyword Planner, an export from Google Search Console, a list from SEMrush or SE Ranking or Ahrefs, the data source for your keywords is still very much the same. That hasn't changed. You still need to get the search data. What's changed is how you can use those keywords. So what I would do then is I would take a list. So let's say one of my preferred tools is SEMrush. So let's say I go into SEMrush and I want to find all tools related to this new pizza topic. All keywords related to this new pizza topic. I'll pull down a list with it's maybe 3,000 keywords. So what do I do with that? I'll feed that into ChatGPT. You can upload a CSV file, so you can upload it direct from the SEMrush export. And you can have different prompts. You can ask it to give you moderate volume, moderate difficulty keywords that are going to be easier to rank for, but still drive traffic that would be a good target for your new content. So you can ask prompts like that, and then rather than having for you to go through the keywords manually, you can use those language prompts to get your lists of keywords.
So it's as simple as just going into ChatGPT and like asking it to do the job. Is it that simple?
In many cases, yes. I think that there's some tools out there. SEMrush has a good tool for if you're doing keyword research and you want to see how easy it would be for your site to rank for specific keywords. They just launched this new PKD I think it's called PKD, Personal Keyword Difficulty. So when you're doing keyword research, you insert your domain name and it'll tell you based on your site's existing content and rankings how easy it will be for you to rank for those keywords. So all of these other tools are launching new ways for you to find keywords. So in that sense, like I might look for pizza keywords, put in my domain name, and just export those keywords that have a moderate difficulty just for me, because SEMrush has already done a lot of the work. So ChatGPT is probably the quickest and easiest way to go to start, but all of these advanced tools are coming out that are giving you new ways to use AI to find keywords.
That is pretty cool. So let me ask you the $1 million question so we can then move on. Google has released a major update, right? March, April 2024, where in essence, it heavily penalizes spam and poor quality content. That's the headline, which more often than not, AI generated content, which is not reviewed by a human, as per my understanding, tends to fall into, right? Spam and poor quality content. That's what Google wants to avoid, because again, Google is in the business of making money. If it serves good results to queries to their users, the users keep on using Google and don't go to any competitor, so they can still sell their ads. How do you approach this when you're like, hey, let's use AI to make our life easier as SEOs? What's your opinion on that?
With this Google update, really what they're saying, and you already mentioned this, but they're not penalizing AI, they're penalizing poor quality. And many times AI content can fall into that poor quality when it's not had a human touch. So I've seen SEOs go so far as only using AI to generate outlines and then having a human write the content, which certainly is one way to approach it. But I still like to use AI for generating content, but having a heavy-handed human editor in it, because if you just let it go, it's going to output fairly poor quality content. So I often do it. I'll have it generate an outline. Then I'll take it section by section and say, all right, give me this section. I might reword it a little bit, have ChatGPT look at my rewording and kind of just do like a back and forth, almost like you would do if you were collaborating with a person on an article, and then get your final article output out of that. It probably doesn't save too much time because it is a lot of time to do that back and forth, but I do think it comes out with a better quality content than if I were just going to go in and write it myself.
Interesting. So why so? Because if at the end of the day you spend as much time on it, what makes it a better piece of content for, let's say, the same amount of time invested in it?
I think it's almost the same as collaborating with another person, as you get another insight that you can play off of. And yes, it's an AI tool, but it does have great insights and it does come up with good ideas. It needs human finessing to get you there. And I know it probably doesn't take me the exact same amount of time. It probably is a little bit more efficient.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And if I was to add just a little bit of a personal experience on this, my background is a consultant, right, at PwC. And over there was something that was much easier to do than others, which is reviewing someone's work and making it better was 100 times more easy than coming up from scratch with the stuff. Although as a consultant, you leverage previous presentations and so on, but that's the whole role of the analyst, right? For the first few years, you come up with the content, you get it reviewed by more experienced people. But as you become more experienced, you also find out that once you have that holistic approach, typically to SEO, to a good article, you're like, it's much easier to review content and edit it, as you just mentioned, than coming up from scratch with it. So that probably fits into what you just mentioned.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's totally my outlook on it as well. And I think one of the areas where that becomes even truer is when you start to do content at scale. We do a lot for franchise clients where we might have to produce some localized content for 150 locations that's unique. And as a human, I can't come up with 150 different ways to say the same thing. And that's where we can leverage AI. It does still need editing, but it helps us to create that unique content at a scaled local scale.
That's so interesting. Okay, let's deep dive on this. So, I don't know, local franchise selling teeth whitening. Just coming up with something here. You have 150 locations. How do you make sure that creating that content doesn't end up being duplicates and it's still insightful for the different 150 types of people who will check out these contents? Like, how do you make that working?
It doesn't need to be too different. And that actually surprised me. So we've seen ranking success without. So we'll take the same type of content and duplicate it across, not duplicate it, but actually we did a test on this. That's a great point. So when we first started using ChatGPT, we took a test between short and long form content, completely AI generated with editing, or spun content. And on the spun content side, all we did was change out like location names and a few other things. And surprisingly enough, the completely unique content and the spun content that was pretty similar ranked about the same. They both saw a boost, but you would have thought that the totally unique content would have seen a bigger boost. And I think what Google's seeing there is they understand that it's a franchise site and that all of the organizations or all the sub-locations are pretty much the same thing and all related back to that parent. So in that case, I don't think it needs to be totally unique.
That's super interesting. And that doesn't... So I'm new to this part of the SEO. I always thought that duplicate content would be heavily penalized. But Google understands when it comes down to, hey, we are actually the same company just in different locations. So within the article or the content, you probably will have the location that differs and maybe a few names because you don't have the same people. But in essence, if the content is almost similar, it's not a problem.
It's because you have so many pieces of the page that are localized. So you've got the location name here, the location name here, the communities, the address, all of these components that are so localized that if there is some content, because headlines, things like that do get duplicated, you're not getting penalized. And it's how a lot of these bigger sites function too. If you look at Best Buy, they have this like very large location site where it's all based on the same template, but they have like local addresses and local reviews, and yet those rank very well.
Love it. Okay, so that's about content and kind of not local SEO, because I guess we just covered the part of franchise and when you need to replicate or like do content at scale for something very similar. Super interesting. What about the overall website structure? So here I think we've tackled content quite fully. What else can you do with AI to do your job better as an SEO and even do better than if it was just you? Hey, if you're still listening to this, you probably find this conversation interesting, and that means that others might too. So the best way you can support this podcast for free is to leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this show. This helps the podcast more than I could say. It means other SEOs can learn and get access to our amazing guests, and that will mean the world to me. All right, with that being said, back to the episode.
So if I can take a step back and talk a little bit about website structure, and kind of our approach to website structure is in building the roadmap to your website. And it's important for both Google crawlers and for users for how they can navigate your site. You start with your homepage, then you've got like pillar pages below that. Then you might get in, let's take an e-com site, for example. Your pillar pages might be your top tier categories. And then you get into product pages, more specific categories. And then finally, you can have supporting content like blog posts, support articles, all of those things. So having a structure to your content is important, even more so with Google's release of, or announcement a year or so ago of EEAT. Google wants your website to be the expert, show experience, authoritative, and be trustworthy. And we can kind of bundle all of those things up into showing that you know what you're talking about, that you are an authority in your space. And part of that is having a solid website structure. I'm going to use SEO as the example because that's what we do, but let's talk about our agency website and building a authority in the space of SEO. We can do that by hitting on all the different subtopics. We can show with subpages under that cluster that we are an authority in technical SEO, internal link building, franchise SEO, local SEO, content writing, all of these different things that we can build as an authority in this space. And then the piece where I think AI really plays into it is building an internal link structure that supports your website structure. So this is what tells Google the interrelatedness of your content. So it shows the hierarchy, your top pages ranked to your second tier, to your third tier, and everything links back up to the pages above it. But then where you can use AI, and this is something we've been doing for a lot of our clients lately, is identifying keyword ranking opportunities within your existing website content. So let's say you have a blog that has 200 articles. So you've got a lot of content. And you've got this list of all these target keywords for these pages and all of your already ranking keywords that you want to boost up further. We'll pull a content extraction using Screaming Frog of basically we scrape all the content from the website. And then you can feed it into ChatGPT. You can also do this with some pretty complex Excel formulas as well. But you can look for those keywords within your existing website content to identify internal link opportunities. And the goal really is to identify what other pages and what opportunities within your existing content can link back to those pillars to just show Google that authority to those top pages.
I love it. Okay, can you break that down for me? So, because if I understand properly, you're better off not trying to rank with multiple pages on the same keywords. Is that correct?
Correct. So, and it's interesting, back a few years ago, the recommendation was, hey, you do SEO, create a long page that talks about everything you do and get that one page ranking for everything. And now it's more creating those topical pages and making sure they're all linked together. So you want pages that are separate that builds that authority.
Okay. And so if you do so, let's say I scrape all my content with Screaming Frog or whatever other tool. What's the next step then to make sure that I rank higher for the keywords that I'm already ranking for but I'd like to boost, and the ones that my content is talking about but I'm not necessarily ranking for yet? Like, what's the step-by-step process to make sure that I do this? And to make it easier, how do I use AI into that?
So I would take a list, and so you have to have your keyword list and your content extraction piece. The content extraction piece we already have. So the keyword list, you can export all your ranking keywords. Usually what I'll do is I try to cut that list down. So like your site might be ranking for 20,000 keywords or 2,000 keywords, whatever it is. But you don't want to focus on the ones that only have a monthly search volume of 30. So I will cut it down to the list of, here are the ranking keywords that I want to boost. So maybe it's those that are on pages 2 and 3 that have a volume above 200. That gives me that list. And then I'll also add in target keywords that maybe I'm not ranking for that have been something that we've been focused on. So this gives me my list of keywords. And it's important to have the URL of the page that you want to get ranking for those keywords, if it's not already. So then I would feed both of those as CSV files into ChatGPT. And basically you can ask ChatGPT to look within the content extraction for all those keywords and tell you where those link opportunities exist.
So you would need ChatGPT to be fully updated. Do you ask ChatGPT into this to check your websites, or is it because in the URL, is it thanks to the URL that you have in the file that you feed it?
You can ask ChatGPT to crawl your website, but I've found it doesn't do the best job at finding everything. And that's why I do the content extraction. So I'm basically leveraging ChatGPT to simplify my work rather than going out and crawling the website. I'm saying, here, I've already crawled the website. Here's a full extraction. Look in this spreadsheet for these keywords.
That's good, because if you ask ChatGPT what's its latest update, I think it's still May 2023 or something like that. So it will probably crawl your website, but on the version of May 2023, which is not the latest version, obviously, whenever you're listening to this podcast. Cool. That makes sense. How about internal link strategy? How can you use AI to help you optimize for that? Is it similar to what we just broke down for the content itself, or how do you do that?
It's similar. In the case of websites that aren't WordPress websites, that's really what I've done is I've built that strategy, and there is that manual component of it, and then leveraging ChatGPT to speed up the work. If you're on a WordPress or I think Shopify website, there's a tool called Link Whisper that we've been using a lot of. Link Whisper is an AI tool that does all of this for you. So you install it in your site. You go through and you can select your top keywords. It could be 1, it could be 5 keywords per page, or the tool will make a recommendation for you. And then it will go through all of your content and make recommendations for where to insert links. And then it will automatically put the links in there for you. So it really expedites a full internal link strategy on WordPress and Shopify sites.
That's amazing. So wait, how does it automatically put the links in there?
I don't know how it does it, but it does. And it's super interesting because if you uninstall the plugin, the links remain. So what they're using to add the links, they're inserting it into the content itself and not just overlaying it with a plugin.
That is pretty badass.
Yeah, it's been a really good find for us because most of our sites are WordPress sites that we work with. So it's been expediting things a lot.
And there is so much to build with this tools. It's crazy. So, Lauren, what would be your top 3 GPTs to recommend to SEOs? What are the GPTs that you use yourself? Because in this conversation, I'm also understanding that, well, I mean, we're talking to SEOs, so obviously they will know the craft, but you still have to be very technical about certain aspects to be able to leverage AI in the right way. Well, when it comes to content writing, I guess it's fine, right? You can ask ChatGPT and edit an article. But to do all those optimizations, it still takes several tools, several data sets, several files to like coordinate and organize between each other. So if we were looking at maybe the most simple tools that are AI enabled that could help us in our day-to-day SEO job, what would it be?
I have not done a ton with other people's GPTs. And one of the reasons is I found that I like my approach to SEO and all the GPTs are written by SEOs and they're great. You can do a search in the GPT store for keyword research, for striking distance keywords, for content creation, content briefs, things like that. And I have used quite a few, but I can't say I go back to them all of the time. So I use ChatGPT kind of on its own quite a bit. And then I've started building my own custom GPTs because that lets me put my take on SEO into ChatGPT and utilize my expertise rather than relying on, because I'm inherently not necessarily trustworthy of all of the other GPTs out there if they haven't been vetted. So I can't come up with a list of just 3 that I would go to.
So it will be your GPTs and that's
yes.
It. But that makes sense. Hey, that's good to go as well.
Yeah, I mean, I created a striking distance one that was super simple because I like to have it very specific to a particular action that I want to do. I want you to take the SEMrush export of my ranking keywords and identify all striking distance opportunities that have moderate keyword difficulty. So ranking pages 2 and 3. This is something you could easily do in a spreadsheet, but you also could just import and click a button in ChatGPT and you have it.
Love it. And so for the people who are listening to this who do not know what a striking distance is, which was my case until 5 seconds ago, it is a targeted term that ranks just off the first page between position 11 and 20. So basically, what you want to do is to rank for Google keywords, and ranking means being in between the top 1 and top 10. And what Lauren was just explaining is, hey, let's focus on those keywords that I'm having a striking distance of. Is that the correct way of put it?
Yeah, and so the idea there is with striking distance, you are already getting seen by Google as a relevant page. Your content is almost there. So with less effort than new content or poor ranking content, with less effort and less tweaks, you can hopefully boost onto page one. So that's why that's a top target for SEOs, because we want to try to boost. Most visibility goes to those page one results. If we can get the page two results to page one, you could see a good boost in traffic.
Okay, Lauren, let me throw you a curveball here. How can I use AI to optimize my off-page SEO? Anything you've seen in the space, any tools that you're using, any tricks that you can inform us on how to leverage AI to optimize for link building or overall off-page SEO?
Off-page SEO is not my specialty. So I specialize in like website structure, content, technical SEO. Off-page has kind of been that white whale I haven't tackled.
It was a curveball. It was announced. But yeah, hey, thanks for the transparency. Lauren, any other ways we can leverage AI to be better as SEOs? Any other tool that you'd like to break down for us?
One thing I haven't been talking a lot about, but it's Gemini. So I've mostly been referencing GPT, when in reality, I use Gemini about 50% of the time. And especially with content briefs, content creation, crawling a site and asking for specific ranking advice. It can be as simple as going into Gemini and say, hey, Google, how can I make this page better? Give me an optimized title tag and description for this keyword. The way I like to look at it is you're asking Google itself for SEO recommendations. Now, whether or not, what I really want to test is like taking two pages that are totally equal in almost all ways and optimizing one with ChatGPT and one with Gemini and seeing if I can get an edge with Gemini. But Gemini does a great job with a lot of those very specific SEO tasks. And also, it does a good job with content, especially specialized content. So when I'm writing an article about SEO, for example, I often tend to use Gemini because of its the voice that it uses and the way it approaches things I like a little bit better. But I also find myself going back and forth between the two tools as well. So I want to make sure nobody forgets about Gemini here, because it is, I think, a very valuable AI tool as well.
I was forgetting about Gemini, so thanks a lot for pointing it out. And actually what you said just makes so much sense, because, hey, if that's the tool developed by Google, I mean, we cannot assume that the whole algorithm has been trained on Google data and the way Google ranks searches and optimizes for SEO. But it wouldn't be too bad of an idea to actually check out what Gemini has to say when you're trying to optimize for SEO. That makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
Lauren, thank you so much for coming on SEO Gurus. It was great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thank you so much for making it to the end. For more content updates, visit our website at ghapodcast.com, and don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn for more tips and insights on SEO. See you in the next episode.